Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to this explainer where we're going to unpack a truly fascinating concept: how to actually reclaim control of your mind from all those invisible distractions of the modern world. Because let's be honest, if you've been feeling scattered or mentally drained lately, well, you're going to want to pay really close attention. Today, we're upgrading our mental systems. We're looking at incredibly powerful insights on mental discipline, intentional habits, and even a little bit of social strategy to help you design an absolutely unstoppable mind. I want you to think about this question for a second. When did you become so tired? And I don't mean physically, but mentally. It's that kind of heaviness, a lack of clarity, a constant feeling that your mind just isn't quite as sharp as it used to be. You sit on the couch, you literally haven't done any heavy lifting, yet you feel completely exhausted. We so often tell ourselves, man, I just need more discipline. I just need to try harder. But here is the massive plot twist right out of the gate. You do not have a discipline problem. You have a system problem. Your mental strength isn't missing. It's just being drained quietly without you even noticing. And this brings us to a massive paradigm shift. Instead of frantically pouring more coffee into a leaky bucket, we really need to rethink our approach. See, when we feel weak or unproductive, our first biological instinct is to just add force, right? We think we need to white knuckle our way through a task and just push harder. But building true mental strength, that's actually about removing leaks. It's about stopping that constant task switching, ending that urge to escape into your phone the very second you feel a little bit of discomfort, and turning down all that endless noise. You aren't lacking power, you're leaking it. Let's move into section 1, the invisible mental drain, and take a look at how exactly we're losing our edge. The truth is, you don't lose your mental strength in one big dramatic event. You lose it quietly in these tiny, seemingly harmless moments every single day. And because it's invisible, we just kind of adapt to it. To see how this happens, we just need to look at the timeline of a typical morning. 0 minutes, you wake up. 1 minute in, you grab your phone. It's almost automatic, isn't it? But in that exact moment, your brain no longer belongs to you. You let the world pour its chaos into your brain before you've even had a single original thought of your own. By 10 minutes in, your entire day is hijacked. You tell yourself, oh, I'll just scroll for 1 minute, but your focus was just chosen for you. Giving your brain to the world's noise in those first 10 minutes literally dictates a reactive, defensive state for the next 10 hours. So, Section 2, Escaping the Ego Trap. Let's talk about overcoming that intense internal resistance. Look, when you procrastinate on a big project, you probably think you're just being lazy. But the biological truth is that your brain is an absolute efficiency machine. While it only makes up a really small fraction of your body weight, it consumes roughly 20% of your energy. 20%! That means your brain is literally hardwired to be a lazy roommate, constantly voting for the easiest path just to save energy. Fighting this with cheesy motivational quotes, that is a battle you're gonna lose every single time. The internal saboteurs living inside our own heads aren't laziness, they're driven by your biology and your ego. This default biological setting is what neuroscientists call cognitive ease, and your ego uses this entirely to its advantage. Think of your ego like an overprotective security guard. It builds this social mask, a persona, using very familiar roles, like being the struggling artist or the quiet one, because those roles are safe. The crazy truth is, you aren't actually afraid of failing. You're terrified of the transformation that real success demands, because success means dropping the safe mask, and the ego absolutely hates that. Now, this fear of changing who we are often manifests in what we call the kindness trap. We use empathy and agreeableness as this pretty little mask to hide our fear of setting hard boundaries. But when you are a constantly available emotional doormat, you kind of stop being a person in other people's eyes and you become a utility. You become an emergency button they push only when they need something. Every single time you bite your tongue just to keep a fake peace, you are draining your psychic energy. You absolutely need assertive boundaries to protect that charge. This brings us to Section 3, the fox and the lion. Let's look at mastering social defense. And this brilliantly illustrates a concept Machiavelli laid out over 500 years ago. He dropped a brutal truth. The world is full of people who do not play by your rulebook. So being purely nice all the time is just a strategic error. You need a defense framework. You need 2 archetypes that you must channel simultaneously to protect your personal energy. First, you have to be the fox. This represents social intelligence. The clever fox proactively observes their surroundings, reads between the lines, and sees traps way before stepping into them. But being clever isn't enough on its own. You also must be the lion. Now, this isn't about being loud or aggressive. It's about a quiet strength and firm, non-negotiable boundaries. The lion commands real earned respect because everyone knows you're fully capable of taking action if necessary. Moving right along to Section 4, Systems over Willpower. This is all about winning by design. Okay, so we've established that you can't win by brute force or unreliable motivation. Motivation is just a feeling, and feelings come and go like the wind. Unstoppable people win by design and environment. So here is the actionable system to reclaim your focus. Step 1, a 7-day dopamine reset. You basically have to starve the brain of junk content and overstimulation to bring your pleasure baseline back to normal. Yes, it will be incredibly boring, but boring is exactly where the healing happens. Step 2, clean your environment. Design your world so that victory is the default and discipline is just easier than temptation. Delete, unfollow, and block the noise. And step 3, move to exhaust excess energy. Lust and distraction feed on idle energy. When you exhaust your body through intense movement, your mind finally becomes quiet. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer math of attention. Just look at the massive discrepancy in value here. Most people treat their attention like it doesn't matter, just letting it get pulled by every ping and ding. But attention is the literal currency of your life. One single hour of deep, uninterrupted focus is worth 10 hours of scattered, distracted work. Protecting your uninterrupted focus is the absolute superpower of the 21st century. If you aren't guarding it, you are just a passenger in someone else's car. So, taking back the wheels starts with what's called the intentional morning protocol. This is used by a lot of high-performing CEOs. It means starting in silence so you can actually hear your own voice and remember your purpose. You protect your mental space like a literal fortress. And, most importantly, you do the hard thing first. Doing the hardest task first removes that heavy mental weight that just sits in your mind all day like a parasite. It trains your nervous system to actively choose the path of most resistance, putting you instantly into leadership mode. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Becoming the Architect, where we focus on building that long-term identity. This right here is where we build long-term momentum. Your daily free time needs a new curriculum because your hobbies are constantly training your brain. Here it is. Learn, move, create, reflect, and build. Notice the big contrast here. Passive scrolling is just a tangled mess of cheap dopamine that destroys your focus and honestly leaves you feeling pretty empty. But active building, that is neuroplasticity in real-time action. You are quite literally rewiring your brain for growth. You stop being a victim of circumstance and you become a student of systems. And as you build these systems, you've got to remember the rule of continuity. Never break the chain. Sure, intensity is impressive, but consistency is transformative. Keeping small promises to yourself, like reading a chapter instead of scrolling, or actually doing that morning workout, builds your internal integrity. Every single kept promise is a deposit into your bank of self-belief. When you treat your word to yourself as law, you build the absolute self-belief of an unstoppable person. Small wins lead to big wars. Ultimately, it all boils down to this. Every choice is a vote for the person you want to become. Your identity isn't set in stone. It's like a giant puzzle, entirely built by the tiny, consistent choice architecture we design every single day. You're either becoming sharper or weaker. You're becoming more focused or more distracted. There's absolutely no neutral ground here. You literally vote your future self into existence with every single action you take. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to chew on today. As you step out of passivity, as you reclaim your attention from all that endless noise, and as you start building your new foundation, what kind of person are you finally giving yourself permission to become? Because the answer to that question changes absolutely everything. It is time to stop being a passive reactor. It is time to start acting as the unapologetic architect of your own life. Start building the evidence for that new identity today.